What's worse than discovering your spouse is having an affair? Discovering that the affair is with your best friend. The person you trusted with your secrets, your vulnerabilities, your marriage problems. The person who consoled you when things were hard, who told you everything would be okay. This is one of those infidelity stories of betrayal that doesn't just break a marriage. It shatters an entire support system, destroys a friendship, and makes you question every conversation, every hug, every piece of advice that person ever gave you. This is the story of Emma Harrison, her husband Jake, and her best friend since college, Sophie. It's a story about the worst kind of betrayal, the most elaborate deception, and a truth so devastating that when it finally came out, it destroyed 3 lives completely. But here's what makes this different from other infidelity stories of betrayal. The person who was actually betrayed wasn't who anyone thought it was. Before we dive into this complex tale of affairs, friendship, and lies within lies, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because this story will teach you something important about infidelity and betrayal. Sometimes the person you think is the villain is actually a victim. And sometimes the person you're crying to about your marriage is the reason your marriage is failing. Emma Harrison thought she knew who to trust. She was wrong about everything. Emma Harrison and Sophie Chen had been best friends for 15 years. They'd met in college, freshman year, randomly assigned as roommates. By the end of that first semester, they were inseparable. They'd been there for each other through everything. Bad boyfriends, family drama, career struggles, life crises. When Emma got married to Jake at 27, Sophie was her maid of honor. When Sophie went through a devastating breakup at 29, Emma let her move into their guest room for 6 months. They talked every day, multiple times a day. Phone calls, texts, coffee dates, girls' nights. They knew everything about each other's lives. Every secret, every fear, every hope. Emma was a high school English teacher. Sophie was a marketing executive. Jake was a software engineer. They lived in the same city, spent holidays together, vacationed together. Their lives were completely intertwined. Emma thought Sophie was her soulmate in friendship form. The sister she'd never had. The person who would always have her back no matter what. And for 15 years, that's exactly what Sophie had been, until she wasn't. Emma and Jake's marriage started having problems in their 7th year. Nothing dramatic, just the slow erosion that happens when 2 people stop prioritizing each other. They were both busy with work. They'd fallen into routines. The romance had faded into comfortable coexistence. Emma, like many people in struggling marriages, turned to her best friend for support. She told Sophie everything. How Jake seemed distant lately, how they hadn't had sex in 3 months, how she felt lonely even when they were in the same room. Sophie listened, sympathized, offered advice. She told Emma that all marriages go through rough patches, that she needed to communicate with Jake, try to reconnect, maybe see a marriage counselor. "Don't give up on him," Sophie said during one of their coffee dates. "Marriage is work, Em. You guys love each other. You'll get through this." Emma trusted Sophie's advice. After all, Sophie had been there through Emma's entire relationship with Jake. She'd seen them fall in love, watched them get married, been part of their journey together. If anyone understood Emma's marriage, it was Sophie. So Emma tried everything Sophie suggested. She planned date nights. She tried to be more affectionate. She suggested marriage counseling. But Jake seemed increasingly distant, increasingly uninterested in working on their relationship. Emma cried to Sophie about it regularly. "I don't know what to do. It's like he doesn't even see me anymore, like I'm invisible to him." Sophie hugged her, told her it would be okay, that she just needed to be patient. "He's probably stressed about work. Men shut down when they're stressed. Give him time." This pattern continued for months, Emma struggling in her marriage, confiding in Sophie, Sophie offering comfort and advice, Emma leaning on her best friend as her primary emotional support while her marriage slowly fell apart. What Emma didn't know was that while she was crying to Sophie about Jake's distance, Sophie was the reason Jake was distant, because Sophie and Jake had been having an affair for 8 months. Emma found out about the affair in the most devastating way possible. She came home early from work one day, feeling sick with what she thought was the flu. She opened her front door quietly, planning to take some medicine and lie down, and she heard voices coming from upstairs. From her bedroom, Jake's voice. And Sophie's voice, in her bedroom, in the middle of the afternoon. For a moment, Emma's brain couldn't process what she was hearing. Sophie was supposed to be at work. Jake was supposed to be at work. Why were they both in her house, in her bedroom, in the middle of the day? Emma walked up the stairs like she was moving through water, each step taking enormous effort. The voices got clearer. They were talking quietly, intimately. Emma pushed open her bedroom door. Jake and Sophie were in her bed. Not having sex, but clearly post-sex. Lying close together, Jake's arm around Sophie, both of them dressed in the clothes Emma had seen them wearing that morning when they'd supposedly gone to work. For a long moment, nobody moved. Emma stood in the doorway, staring at her husband and her best friend in her bed. Jake and Sophie stared back at her, frozen in shock. Then Emma said very quietly, "How long?" Sophie started crying immediately. Jake sat up, pulling away from Sophie. "Emma, I can explain. How long?" Emma repeated, her voice still eerily calm. 8 months, Jake said quietly. 8 months. Emma did the math in her head. 8 months ago was when she'd first started noticing problems in her marriage, when Jake had started becoming distant, when she'd started leaning on Sophie for support. "You've been sleeping with my best friend for 8 months, Emma said, still in that strange, flat voice, while I was crying to her about our marriage problems, while she was giving me advice about how to save our relationship, while she was telling me not to give up on you." Sophie was sobbing now. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Get out of my house," Emma said. "Both of you, now." She turned and walked downstairs, got in her car, and drove. She didn't know where she was going, didn't care. She just needed to be away from them, away from the image of her husband and her best friend in her bed. This was one of those infidelity stories of betrayal that broke something fundamental in Emma's understanding of the world. Because it wasn't just about her husband cheating. It was about her best friend, the person she trusted most in the world, betraying her in the cruelest way possible. Sophie had listened to Emma cry about her marriage while actively destroying it. She'd offered advice designed to keep Emma, trying to fix things while she continued sleeping with Jake. She'd hugged Emma and told her everything would be okay while planning her next secret meeting with Emma's husband. The betrayal was so complete, so layered, so deliberately cruel that Emma couldn't process it. This was worse than any of the typical infidelity stories of betrayal because it wasn't just about sex or romance. It was about a best friend weaponizing 15 years of trust and intimacy to destroy Emma's life. Emma drove for hours, eventually ending up at her parents' house 2 hours away. She told them everything. Her mother held her while she cried. Her father, usually mild-mannered, said things about Jake and Sophie that Emma had never heard him say about anyone. Over the next few days, Emma's phone exploded with messages. Jake called and texted constantly, begging to talk. Sophie sent long, rambling messages filled with apologies and explanations. Mutual friends, having heard about the affair through the small-town gossip network, reached out with shock and sympathy. Emma ignored all of it. She couldn't think about Jake, couldn't think about Sophie, couldn't think about any of it without feeling like she was drowning. But after 3 days at her parents' house, Emma realized she needed to go back and deal with reality. She needed to figure out what to do about her marriage, her home, her life. She drove back to the house she'd shared with Jake, steeling herself to see him. But when she walked in, Jake wasn't there. Instead, she found a note on the kitchen counter. "Emma, I've moved out temporarily. I'm staying with my brother. I know you need space. I'm so sorry for everything. I know I destroyed us, destroyed your trust, destroyed your friendship with Sophie. There's no excuse for what I did. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here. But I understand if you never want to see me again. I'm filing for divorce if that's what you want. Whatever you need, I'll do it. I'm so sorry. Jake." Emma read the note 3 times, trying to feel something. Anger, sadness, relief. But she just felt numb, and then her phone rang. It was Sophie. Emma's finger hovered over the decline button. But something made her answer. "Emma, please don't hang up," Sophie said immediately, her voice desperate. "I need to talk to you. Not to make excuses, but to explain. There's so much you don't know. Please, can we meet just once? I owe you the full truth." "The full truth?" Emma laughed bitterly. "I think I already know the truth, Sophie. You've been fucking my husband for 8 months. There's more, Sophie said quietly. So much more. Things about Jake, about your marriage, about why this happened. I know you hate me. I deserve that. But please, give me 1 hour to tell you everything. Then if you never want to see me again, I'll understand. Emma should have said no, should have hung up, blocked Sophie's number, cut her out of her life completely. But something in Sophie's voice made her hesitate. An urgency that suggested there was indeed more to this story. 1 hour, Emma said. Tomorrow. Coffee shop on Main Street. The one we used to go to. 2 p.m. Thank you, Sophie whispered. Thank you, Emma. Emma hung up and sat in her empty house, wondering what else there could possibly be to this story. How could this infidelity and betrayal story get any worse than it already was? She was about to find out that it could get much, much worse, but not in the way she expected. Emma arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. She got her usual order, vanilla latte, and sat at a table in the back. Waiting for Sophie felt surreal. This was the same coffee shop where they'd had hundreds of conversations over 15 years, where Emma had cried about her marriage while Sophie offered comfort and advice. The irony was nauseating. Sophie arrived exactly at 2 p.m. She looked terrible. Her normally perfect makeup was minimal. Her hair was messily pulled back. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She got a black coffee and sat down across from Emma. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Emma just stared at Sophie, this person she'd known for 15 years, and saw a stranger. Thank you for coming, Sophie said finally. You have 1 hour, Emma replied coldly. Start talking. Sophie took a shaky breath. First, I need you to know that everything I'm about to tell you is true. I have proof. Text messages, emails, recordings. I've compiled everything, and it's on this flash drive. She placed a small USB drive on the table between them. I don't know how to start this except to just say it. Jake and I weren't having an affair. Not in the way you think. Emma felt anger flare hot in her chest. I saw you in my bed together. Don't you dare try to redefine what I saw. We were in your bed, Sophie agreed. We had slept together multiple times over 8 months. But Emma, Jake wasn't cheating on you because he fell in love with me. He was cheating on you because he's been planning to leave you for over a year. And I was convenient. Emma stared at her. What are you talking about? Sophie pulled out her phone. Jake and I didn't start sleeping together 8 months ago. We started talking about your marriage about a year ago. Jake reached out to me, said he wanted to talk to someone who knew both of you. He said he was unhappy in the marriage but didn't know how to tell you. That's convenient, Emma said bitterly. Go to my best friend for marriage advice. End up sleeping with her. That's what I thought too at first, Sophie said. But Jake didn't want marriage advice. He wanted an exit strategy. He'd already decided to leave you, Emma. He just needed to figure out how to do it in a way that made him look like the victim instead of the bad guy. Sophie slid her phone across the table, showing text messages between her and Jake from 13 months ago. Emma read them, her hands starting to shake. Jake, I don't love Emma anymore. I haven't for years, but everyone sees us as this perfect couple. How do I leave without looking like an asshole? Sophie, Jake, if you're really unhappy, you need to talk to Emma. Be honest with her. Jake, I can't. Her family loves me. Our friends love us together. If I just leave, everyone will hate me. I need a better reason, a reason that makes people sympathetic to me leaving. Emma kept reading, scrolling through months of messages. Jake systematically planning how to exit their marriage while maintaining his reputation. Talking to Sophie about ways to make Emma look like the bad guy. Discussing how he could make it seem like the marriage failed because of Emma, not because he wanted out. He manipulated you into this affair, Emma said slowly, the pieces clicking together. He seduced you, got you to sleep with him, knowing I would find out, and that would be his excuse to leave. Yes, Sophie said, tears streaming down her face. But Emma, I was so stupid. I let him. I slept with him. I betrayed you. Even if he manipulated me into it, I still chose to do it. I'm not trying to excuse myself. Emma scrolled further, and then she found messages that made her stomach drop. Jake, Sophie's guilt is going to be a problem. She keeps saying we need to tell Emma the truth. Unknown number. So break it off with Sophie. You got what you needed, an affair that Emma will find out about. The rest will take care of itself. Unknown number. Remember the plan. You get caught. You play the remorseful husband for a few weeks. Then you leave. Emma will be so hurt by the betrayal that she'll be glad to see you go. You get your divorce, you get to keep most of your money because she won't fight much, and you walk away with everyone sympathizing with you for trying to make it work. Who is that? Emma asked, her voice hollow. That's the part I really need to tell you about, Sophie said. That's Lisa, Jake's coworker. The woman Jake had mentioned occasionally over the past year, the new project manager at his company. Jake has been planning to leave you for Lisa for over a year, Sophie said. He started the affair with me as a cover story. He could leave you because of the affair, look like the bad guy briefly, then 6 months later start publicly dating Lisa. By then, people would have forgotten about me and just see him as a guy moving on after a painful divorce. Emma felt like the floor was tilting beneath her. This whole thing was planned? The affair with you, the distance in our marriage, everything? Emma, the marriage problems you were noticing weren't natural drift, Sophie said. Jake was creating them. He was pulling away deliberately, rejecting your attempts to connect, making you feel like you were failing. He wanted you to feel responsible for the marriage falling apart so you wouldn't fight him when he left. Sophie pulled up more messages, more evidence. A year's worth of Jake meticulously planning how to destroy his marriage while making Emma feel like it was her fault. And in every message, every plan, every cruel calculation, Sophie had been there. Sometimes objecting, sometimes questioning, but ultimately going along with it. Sleeping with Jake, betraying Emma, playing her part in this elaborate deception. This was worse than Emma had imagined. This wasn't just another infidelity story of betrayal. This was systematic, calculated destruction. Jake hadn't fallen out of love or made a mistake. He'd waged a psychological war against his own wife, using her best friend as a weapon. Emma sat in the coffee shop, staring at Sophie's phone, trying to process what she was learning. Her marriage hadn't just failed. It had been deliberately destroyed by her husband, piece by piece, over more than a year. Why are you telling me this now? Emma asked. Why not just let me think it was a simple affair? Sophie wiped her eyes. Because I finally grew a conscience. Or maybe because Jake threw me away the second you found out, exactly like he'd planned. The night you discovered us after you left, Jake literally said perfect timing, and immediately ended things with me. He told me I'd served my purpose and he didn't need me anymore. Sophie's voice broke. He used me, Emma. He played me like a fool. Made me think he actually had feelings for me, that we were building something real behind your back. But I was just a prop in his exit strategy, a convenient scapegoat so he could leave you without taking all the blame. Emma felt a strange, hollow sympathy for Sophie despite everything. They'd both been manipulated by Jake. Both betrayed. Both used as pawns in his game. You still slept with him, Emma said. For 8 months you slept with my husband and listened to me cry about my marriage. That's still betrayal, Sophie, no matter how he manipulated you. I know, Sophie said. Believe me, I know. I hate myself for it. Every time you called me crying, every time you asked for advice, I wanted to die from guilt. But I couldn't tell you the truth because I was in too deep. I'd already betrayed you, and telling you would just make it worse. So you kept betraying me, Emma said flatly. Yes, Sophie admitted. I did, and I don't deserve your forgiveness for that. But Emma, I'm telling you now because you need to know who Jake really is. He's not the man you married. He's not the man any of us thought he was. He's a sociopath who planned the destruction of your marriage like a military operation. Sophie slid the flash drive across the table. Everything is on here. All the messages, all the evidence. Take it to a lawyer. Jake is planning to try to keep most of your shared assets in the divorce. He's been hiding money, setting up accounts you don't know about. He thinks you'll be too hurt and embarrassed to fight him. Don't let him get away with it. Emma took the flash drive, turning it over in her hands. A year of evidence, a year of betrayal. Her husband's calculated cruelty documented in excruciating detail. What about Lisa? Emma asked. Does she know about any of this? Sophie shook her head. I don't think so. I think Jake is planning to play the wounded divorcee with her. Make her think his marriage just naturally failed. She'll probably never know she's the reason he destroyed you. Emma felt rage building in her chest. Not just at Jake for what he'd done, but at the unfairness of it all. He was going to walk away from this with his new relationship, his reputation mostly intact, while Emma was left with a destroyed marriage and a shattered friendship. This infidelity story of betrayal was more complex than anything Emma had imagined. It wasn't about passion or love or even simple betrayal. It was about manipulation, calculation, and a man who'd weaponized the people closest to him to get what he wanted. "I need to go," Emma said, standing up. "I need to process all this." "Emma, wait," Sophie said. "I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want you to know that our friendship before all this was real. I loved you like a sister. What I did was unforgivable. But those 15 years of friendship were genuine." Emma looked at Sophie, this person she'd trusted more than anyone in the world. And even knowing Sophie had been manipulated, even understanding that Jake had orchestrated much of this, Emma couldn't look at her without seeing her in bed with Jake, without remembering how Sophie had listened to her pain while causing it. "Our friendship is dead, Sophie," Emma said quietly. "Maybe you were manipulated. Maybe you were used, but you still chose to betray me every single day for 8 months. That's on you, no matter what Jake did." Emma walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Sophie sitting there alone. She got in her car and drove, the flash drive burning like fire in her pocket. She had 1 hour of evidence of Jake's year-long plan to destroy their marriage. And now Emma had a choice: let Jake get away with his plan or fight back. Emma was tired of being a victim in this story. It was time to become something else. Emma went straight from the coffee shop to the best divorce attorney in the city. She'd done her research over the past few days, reading reviews, checking credentials. She wanted someone ruthless, someone who would fight for her the way she'd been too hurt and confused to fight for herself. Margaret Chen's office was on the top floor of a downtown high-rise. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a reputation for destroying unfaithful spouses in court. Emma sat in Margaret's office and told her the entire story. From the marriage problems to finding Jake and Sophie together, to Sophie's revelation about the year-long manipulation, she handed over the flash drive. Margaret plugged it into her computer and spent 20 minutes reading through the evidence. Her expression grew darker with each message. "Mrs. Harrison," Margaret finally said, "what your husband has done goes beyond typical infidelity. This is financial and emotional fraud. He's been systematically planning to defraud you of marital assets while psychologically manipulating you to believe you're responsible for the marriage failing. Can we stop him?" Emma asked. Margaret smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. "Oh, we can do better than stop him. We can make sure he regrets every calculation he made. These messages show premeditated planning to hide assets and manipulate the divorce proceedings. That alone is grounds for sanctions. But combined with the emotional manipulation, the affair, the systematic psychological abuse, a judge is going to crucify him." Over the next 2 hours, Margaret and Emma planned their strategy. They would file for divorce immediately, but not the way Jake expected. They would present all the evidence of his planning, his asset hiding, his manipulation. They would show that this wasn't a marriage that naturally failed. It was a marriage that Jake deliberately destroyed for his own benefit. "What about Sophie?" Margaret asked. "She was complicit in much of this." Emma hesitated. Sophie had finally told the truth, had given Emma the evidence to fight back. But she'd also participated in the betrayal for 8 months. "I don't want to destroy her," Emma said finally. "She was manipulated too, even if she made terrible choices. But I want her to face some consequences." Margaret nodded. "We can include her in the emotional distress claim without going after her financially. Make sure she understands there are consequences for betraying your trust, even if she was being used." Emma agreed. Sophie deserved to face what she'd done. But Emma didn't want to be as cruel to Sophie as Jake had been to all of them. The next morning, Jake was served with divorce papers. Not the simple, quiet divorce he'd been planning. A comprehensive filing that included all the evidence of his year-long manipulation, his asset hiding, his calculated destruction of their marriage. Jake called Emma immediately. She didn't answer. He called 10 more times. She blocked his number. That evening, Emma got a text from an unknown number. It was Lisa, Jake's coworker. "Emma, we need to talk. Jake isn't who you think he is. Or who I thought he was." Emma stared at the message, then texted back. I'm listening. Emma and Lisa met at a different coffee shop the next day, both of them cautious and uncertain. Lisa was younger than Emma, maybe 28, pretty in a professional way. She looked tired and upset. "Thank you for meeting me," Lisa said. "I know this is awkward. I'm the woman Jake's been planning to leave you for." "I know," Emma said. "Sophie told me everything," Lisa winced. "I didn't know any of it until yesterday. Jake had been telling me his marriage was over, that you two had been separated for months, that the divorce was just a formality. He said he was waiting for the right time to make it official." "Convenient," Emma said dryly. "When the divorce papers were served, Jake called me in a panic," Lisa continued. "He said you'd discovered his affair with Sophie and were trying to take him for everything out of spite. He asked me to give him money to fight the divorce, to help him hide assets so you couldn't take them." Lisa pulled out her phone. "That's when I started asking questions, and Jake got angry. Really angry. He said things to me that made me realize I didn't know him at all." She showed Emma text messages from the previous night. Jake raging at Lisa for questioning him, calling her names when she refused to help him hide money, threatening her when she said she was going to talk to Emma. "He's not the man I thought I was falling for," Lisa said. "And when I read through the evidence in your divorce filing, it's public record, so I looked. I realized that he'd been manipulating me the same way he manipulated you and Sophie." Emma studied Lisa. "Seeing another victim in Jake's elaborate game. He was never planning to be honest with you either, was he?" "No," Lisa said. "I went through our entire relationship after I saw those messages. Every conversation, every promise. Jake was running the same game on me that he ran on you, telling me what I wanted to hear, manipulating my feelings, positioning himself as the victim of your marriage so I'd feel sorry for him and want to save him." Lisa looked at Emma with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I thought your marriage was over. I thought Jake was just a guy trying to move on from a failed relationship. I had no idea he was systematically destroying you while pretending to build something with me." "Are you still with him?" Emma asked. "God, no," Lisa said. "I ended it last night. That's when he sent those threatening messages. The real Jake came out the second I stopped being useful to him, just like with Sophie." Emma felt a strange kinship with this woman she should have hated. Lisa was another pawn in Jake's game, another person he'd used and planned to discard. "I want to help you," Lisa said. "Jake's been using work resources for personal stuff, charging personal expenses to company cards, using the office for meetings with Sophie. I documented all of it over the past 24 hours. He's going to be fired, and this evidence can help your divorce case." Lisa handed Emma a folder full of printed emails, expense reports, and documentation of Jake's misuse of company resources. "Why are you helping me?" Emma asked. "Because I'm tired of men like Jake using women and getting away with it," Lisa said. "He used you, he used Sophie, he used me. We were all just tools to him, means to an end. I want to make sure he faces real consequences." Emma took the folder, adding it to her growing pile of evidence. Between Sophie's flash drive and Lisa's documentation, she had enough to bury Jake completely. "There's something else," Lisa said hesitantly. "Jake told me something once, when he thought we were really close. He said he'd done this before, with his previous girlfriend before you. He created problems in that relationship too, manipulated her into thinking she was crazy, then left her for someone else. That someone else was you, Emma." Emma felt her blood run cold. "What?" "Jake's ex before you, Amanda something. He destroyed her the same way he's destroying you now. Made her think she was paranoid and crazy, cheated on her, made her feel responsible for the relationship failing. Then he left her and started fresh with you. I bet if you looked into it, you'd find this is a pattern. Jake doesn't just leave relationships. He destroys them. It's how he operates." Emma sat back, processing this information. Her entire relationship with Jake might have been built on the ashes of his previous girlfriend's destroyed confidence. Jake might have been playing these manipulation games his entire adult life. This wasn't just an infidelity story of betrayal. This was a serial pattern of psychological abuse, with multiple women left devastated in Jake's wake. "I'm going to my boss tomorrow," Lisa said. "I'm reporting everything Jake did at work. He'll be fired, but I wanted to give you this evidence first, for your divorce." Emma looked at Lisa, at Sophie's flash drive in her bag, at the lawyer's strategy outlined on her phone. She thought about Amanda, Jake's previous girlfriend, probably still recovering from what he'd done to her. And Emma made a decision. She wasn't just going to win this divorce. She was going to make sure Jake never did this to anyone else ever again. Over the next month, Jake's carefully constructed world fell apart in spectacular fashion. The divorce proceedings went exactly as Margaret predicted. The judge, seeing evidence of Jake's year-long manipulation and asset hiding, ruled heavily in Emma's favor. Jake was ordered to pay Emma 70% of their shared assets, alimony for 5 years, and attorney's fees. The judge included a statement in the ruling about Jake's calculated and malicious fraud against his spouse. Jake's company fired him after Lisa reported his misuse of corporate resources. When they investigated, they found even more evidence of Jake using company money and time for personal affairs. Jake was blacklisted in his industry, his reputation destroyed. Sophie faced consequences too, though Emma kept her word about not destroying her financially. Sophie was included in the emotional distress claim, had to publicly apologize, and lost several mutual friends who couldn't look past her betrayal. Her guilt and the social consequences were punishment enough. But Emma didn't stop there. With Lisa's help, she tracked down Amanda, Jake's ex-girlfriend from before their relationship. They met for coffee, and Emma told her everything. Amanda cried with relief. "I thought I was crazy. For years I've questioned myself, wondered what I did wrong, why I couldn't make that relationship work. Jake made me feel like I was the problem. You weren't the problem," Emma said firmly. "Jake was. He played the same game with you that he played with me." Together, Emma, Lisa, and Amanda compiled a comprehensive document detailing Jake's pattern of behavior. They posted it to a website warning people about manipulative partners, using only facts and evidence, carefully avoiding anything that could be considered libel. Within weeks, Jake's new attempts at dating failed as women Googled his name and found the documented evidence of his manipulation. His social circle, learning the full extent of his calculated cruelty, abandoned him. The life Jake had spent years planning, the clean exit he'd orchestrated, disappeared completely. Emma didn't take pleasure in Jake's destruction the way she thought she would. Mostly she just felt tired. Tired of being angry, tired of thinking about him, tired of letting him take up space in her head. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Emma got an unexpected message from Sophie. "I'm in therapy. Real therapy. Actually dealing with why I let myself be used, why I betrayed you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm trying to become a better person, the person you deserved as a friend." Emma read the message several times before responding. "I'm glad you're getting help. I'm in therapy too. Maybe someday we can be civil to each other. But our friendship is gone, Sophie. Some betrayals can't be repaired." "I understand," Sophie replied. "I hope you find happiness, Emma. Real happiness. You deserve it." Emma blocked Sophie's number after that, not out of anger but out of self-preservation. She needed to move forward without Sophie in her life, even peripherally. 2 years after discovering Jake and Sophie in her bed, Emma Harrison was sitting in her new apartment, smaller than the house she'd shared with Jake, but completely hers, when she realized something important. She'd survived one of the worst infidelity stories of betrayal possible. Her husband had systematically destroyed their marriage while making her think she was failing. Her best friend had participated in that destruction. The foundation of her life had been revealed as built on lies and manipulation, and yet Emma had survived. More than survived, she'd grown. The therapy had helped. So had the support of her family, the friends who'd stood by her, the unexpected alliance with Lisa and Amanda. Emma had learned that she was stronger than she'd ever known, more capable of fighting back than she'd given herself credit for. She'd also learned that infidelity and betrayal stories are never simple. Jake was clearly the villain, but Sophie had been both victim and perpetrator. Lisa had been innocent but complicit. Even Emma herself had played a role, missing signs she should have seen, trusting too completely, not questioning enough. Life wasn't a simple story of good people and bad people. It was complicated, messy, full of people making terrible choices for complex reasons. Emma heard through mutual friends that Jake had moved to another city, started over somewhere new. She hoped, for the sake of whoever he met next, that he'd changed. But she doubted it. People like Jake rarely changed. They just found new victims. Sophie was apparently doing well in therapy, building a life separate from Emma's orbit. Emma wished her well, genuinely. Sophie had been manipulated, even if she'd made terrible choices while being manipulated. She deserved a chance to become better. Lisa had become an unexpected friend. They got coffee occasionally, bonding over their shared experience of being manipulated by the same man. It was a strange friendship, built on trauma, but it was real and supportive in ways Emma needed. Amanda had also stayed in touch. The three women formed a sort of informal support group, helping each other process what Jake had done to them. They called themselves the Jake Survivors, which they knew was darkly funny but also healing in its own way. Emma had started dating again, cautiously. She was more careful now, more observant of red flags, more willing to trust her instincts when something felt off. The betrayal had damaged her ability to trust, but therapy was helping her understand that not everyone was Jake. Some people were genuinely good. Some relationships were genuinely healthy. On the 2-year anniversary of discovering the affair, Emma did something symbolic. She went to the coffee shop where she'd had that devastating conversation with Sophie. She ordered her usual vanilla latte and sat at a table by the window, and she wrote a letter. Not to Jake, not to Sophie, but to herself, to the woman she'd been 2 years ago, heartbroken and confused and feeling like her world was ending. Dear Emma, she wrote. Right now you're in the worst pain of your life. You just discovered that your husband and your best friend betrayed you in ways you didn't know were possible. You feel broken. You feel like you'll never trust anyone again. You feel like this pain will never end. I'm writing from 2 years in the future to tell you something important. You survive this. More than survive, you thrive. You're going to discover strength you didn't know you had. You're going to fight back in ways that surprise everyone, especially yourself. You're going to learn that you don't need someone else to complete you, that you're enough all on your own. The betrayal you're experiencing isn't just an infidelity story. It's a story about manipulation, calculation, and someone who weaponized the people you loved against you. But here's what you need to know. Jake didn't break you. Sophie didn't break you. You're bent, you're bruised, but you're not broken. In 2 years, you'll be sitting in this same coffee shop, drinking this same coffee, but you'll be a different person, stronger, wiser, more careful with your trust, but not closed off to love. You'll have scars, but scars are just proof that you healed. The pain you're feeling right now is valid. The betrayal is real. The damage is extensive, but it's not permanent. You're going to rebuild yourself into someone even better than who you were before. Trust yourself. Fight for yourself. Believe in yourself. Because you deserve so much better than what Jake and Sophie gave you. With love and strength, future Emma. Emma folded the letter and put it in her journal. She finished her coffee and walked out into the sunshine, feeling lighter than she had in 2 years. The infidelity story of betrayal that had destroyed her marriage and her friendship hadn't destroyed her. It had transformed her, made her stronger, more resilient, more aware of her own worth. Emma didn't know what her future held, but she knew one thing for certain. Whoever came into her life next would have to earn her trust, respect her boundaries, and treat her with the honesty she deserved. Because Emma Harrison had survived one of the worst betrayals possible, and she'd learned that she was worth fighting for. This infidelity story of betrayal shows us something important. Sometimes the worst betrayals aren't simple affairs. Sometimes they're elaborate manipulations that involve multiple people, calculated cruelty, and systematic psychological warfare. Emma's story isn't just about a cheating husband and a disloyal friend. It's about a man who weaponized the people closest to his wife to destroy her while making her believe she was responsible. It's about betrayal that goes deeper than sex, that attacks the foundation of trust and reality itself. But Emma's story is also about survival, about fighting back, about refusing to be the victim in someone else's calculated game. She took her pain and turned it into strength, her heartbreak into wisdom. The infidelity stories of betrayal we hear about are often presented as simple narratives. Someone cheated, someone was hurt, revenge or reconciliation follows. But real life is messier than that. Real betrayal is layered, complicated, involving multiple people making choices that hurt others. Sophie was both victim and perpetrator. Lisa was innocent but still part of the situation. Emma was betrayed but also had to examine how she missed the signs. Nothing was simple. If you've experienced infidelity or betrayal, Emma's story might resonate with you. Maybe not the exact details, but the feeling of having your reality shattered by people you trusted. The confusion of trying to understand how someone you loved could hurt you so deliberately. The long, painful process of rebuilding yourself afterward. Here's what Emma learned and what I hope you take away from this story. Betrayal doesn't define you. The worst thing someone else does to you doesn't determine your worth or your future. You can survive the unsurvivable. You can rebuild after complete destruction. You can be stronger on the other side of the worst pain you've ever experienced. And sometimes, the people who hurt you face real consequences. Not always, but sometimes. Jake lost everything. His marriage, his career, his reputation, his future relationships. Sophie lost her best friend and had to live with the guilt of her betrayal. The consequences weren't Emma's doing entirely, but the result of their own choices catching up with them. The best revenge isn't always dramatic confrontation or public humiliation. Sometimes it's simply surviving, healing, and building a life so good that the people who hurt you become irrelevant to your happiness. If you've dealt with infidelity or betrayal, what was your experience? How did you heal? What lessons did you learn? Share your story in the comments. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in these experiences helps more than anything else. And remember, infidelity stories of betrayal are about the people who betray, not about your worth as a person. You are not responsible for someone else's choice to lie, to cheat, to manipulate. That's on them, not you. Subscribe for more stories about betrayal, survival, and the complex reality of human relationships. Until next time, stay strong, trust yourself, and never let someone else's betrayal convince you that you're not worthy of genuine love and respect. You are worthy. You are enough. And you can survive anything.